Hello and welcome back to Homeschool Together. This week we were in Southeast Asia. We had a great time, a lot of good food, a lot of fun topics, a lot of great little books that we read.
Yep. Our focus this week, we really talked a lot about agriculture, watched a lot of videos about rice production,
Yes.
and you guys got into like a deep dive with the science of rice.
Oh yeah, we got into the weeds on rice. It was quite all of a sudden we're going to be plowing up our entire backyard and planting rice, according to my daughter, which is not going to happen. Don't follow us anymore.
We took her on a trip to see her grandparents, and as we were driving by, she was like, "Could we grow rice there? Could we grow rice there?" She kept asking us the whole time. It was pretty cool. So we talked about that. We talked a lot about the ecosystem. I mean, this is just it's just gorgeous. All the videos we just watched, kind of just like mouth open. They're just beautiful shots.
Absolutely. Lots of water, lots of rivers, very tall mountains, unbelievable rainforests. So there's a lot to sample there, a lot of critters you can investigate into, everything from elephants to tigers to snakes and birds. There's just almost everything you can imagine. Whatever your little one's interested in, Southeast Asia has it.
Yeah.
It's a really wonderful place if you want to really explore the ecosystem.
We did a lot of stuff about animals. Our daughter was just really fascinated. So yeah, the beautiful videos on Southeast Asia.
Absolutely. So, want to get into the books?
Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. So the first one is Dara's Clever Trap.
So I'm going to preface this entire discussion with the two books that are called out in Torchlight, which is Mila and the Elephant and Cora Cook's Pantsit. Our library didn't have either of them.
That's right.
So we had to make do. So going back to
Dara's Clever Trap. Basically, this is a story about a princess who's fallen in love with another engineer, and together they like to design bridges and build buildings. But there are these really bad ministers that work for the king, and they convince the king to banish her husband. And so she has to go through this huge rigmarole of tests and traps to convince the king that these men are actually really bad guys and to please send back her husband. And so it was actually a very sweet story. And you can see that it was kind of a light chapter book. I mean, maybe about 40 pages long. So it's a little bit longer than a regular children's book, but very fun drawings. Very brisk read. I think we read it in about 20 minutes. It wasn't a lot of commitment, but really fun. My learner loved it a lot. And being kind of a Lego builder, kind of engineer-y type of girl, she really identified with the princess.
So this is a story from Cambodia.
Cambodia, yep.
This was our first selection.
Yep, absolutely. So, the Philippine Cinderella Story.
Yeah, Abadeha. I'm not sure if I screwed that up. My apologies. So, you will find a blank Cinderella in a whole bunch of different varieties
Your
of
country,
cultures.
Cinderella Story.
Right, a Persian Cinderella, a Chinese Cinderella. There's a bunch of them. I'm kind of Cinderellaed out. I'm going to be totally honest with you. However, my 6.5-year-old is not Cinderellaed out. And I find that these stories actually have a lot of cultural information in some of them. And so this one on the Philippines, and they're all not exactly the same. I mean, they're very close, Cinderella stories, but this is really good artwork. My daughter really enjoyed it. One thing to note, these are a little bit longer than other kinds of picture books. So there's more meat here when you sign up to read this. You got to invest some time. This is about a half-hour book. My daughter loves them, though. And because there weren't a ton of books that we could find on Southeast Asia, this is making it into our list, even though I know you won't read any more Cinderella stories. And I'm kind of done with them, too. But our daughter loves them.
Thumb through like a Rolodex.
It's good for her to connect. Obviously they're taking a standard type of story about a girl who is mistreated in her family for whatever reason and has an opportunity to meet and fall in love with a prince. I think this may be chieftain's son, something. And she's always a very worthy, kind, wonderful person. And so you always feel good at the end that this good thing happens to her. But there's a lot of cultural nuggets hidden within these blank Cinderella. So look for those if you're going to study this or any other country, especially if you're light on books. They might have one of these.
Absolutely.
So look for these, even though they're not my absolute favorite. It was still pretty good.
A Different Pond. Now, this is a very poignant story about an immigrant family from Vietnam that's been relocated to the United States. And it's really a story about a boy and his father and coming together and connecting about his father's past through the act of fishing. And his father wakes him up super early, and I know that can be annoying for young kids, takes him down to the river, and they go fishing. And through that act of fishing, he begins to learn about his father's past in Vietnam and how his brother and he used to go fishing at the pond. and he learns skills from his father, how to bait the fish, how to catch it. It's all icky and gross, and he has to overcome a little bit of those fears. And eventually he finds his way back at home, and he connects with his family around the dinner table where they can share their culture, share their history. I thought it was just a very poignant story. I loved that story, and the idea of family and the idea of young children kind of coming to grips with, being an American child, but then having parents who are immigrants, and having that tension there, and learning about their history and their past. I know that can be very, very much a struggle, and I love this book. It was very nice.
And does this talk overly about the war?
No, it's really just my father came over, and I have to kind of come to grips with that.
Yeah, so we should preface, we didn't really talk about the Vietnam War at all. It's so complex for a kindergartner to understand. So we kind of stayed away from that. And this time, when we come back around to it when she's a bit older, then we'll address it at that time.
Yeah, I think we'll do the same thing we do right now with our 6-year-old with our second daughter, but we'll take our older daughter aside and maybe talk a little bit more about the war
history.
Issues and the history there that we have with that country.
Yeah, that she can appreciate when at that time she'll be 9. And she'll be able to appreciate it much better.
Absolutely. Here, I'll take it.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm the book guy.
Oh, well.
I'm your handsome Vanna White. The Cambodian Dancer.
This was really good. So this is a story about a girl who, are you going to Vanna for me?
In due time.
This is a story. This is a true story about a woman who teaches a traditional Cambodian dance, and it touches on the rise of the Khmer Rouge and that they outlawed dancing. Eventually, she flees to the United States and realizes that other immigrant Cambodian children have not been taught their traditional dances. And so she starts a school and she starts teaching this traditional dance. It was really good as far as like the discussion of war, and obviously that was a genocide. It's not into that at all. It really just says, some bad men came and they wouldn't let us teach our dances, So it was handled very lightly for this young age, but I thought it was really good. Our daughter, who loves to dance, was very into this one, and it led us down a rabbit hole of watching some YouTube videos about Cambodian dance. So I really like this one. I think this might have been my favorite book that we read from Southeast Asia.
Absolutely. Looks wonderful. The Girl Who Wore Too Much. Great little kind of folktale song book about materialism, vanity, and having to overcome that to find a greater peace and a greater interest. Young girl who says, well, I can't be beautiful with just one dress or 2 dresses or 7 dresses. I have to wear all my dresses and all my jewelry. And she's trying to get to a dance in order to compete and be the most beautiful dancer in the town. And on the way,
Thailand.
Yeah, Thailand. And on the way, she's weighed down with all these clothes. It's super hot. She gets exhausted. Her friends try to help her along. She can't do it. She has to return in shame. And through that experience, learns that, well, maybe I don't need to have everything to look beautiful. Maybe just myself. I can come with just one dress and be beautiful and dance and win. And lo and behold, at the end, she does. And so I thought it was a really great story, especially good message, especially to my young daughter who will wear multiple dresses at a time and strut around it and everything. And it was good to talk about, being humble and to be thankful for what you have and to not worry about all the things, maybe focus on just the one thing and enjoy that one thing. So I really liked it. I thought it was a good message. It was one of those like rare stories where you get kind of a different message.
Yeah.
It's not one of those messages you see a lot in these children's books, so I liked it.
Yeah, we're looking for new morals. We've read so many books at this point.
Absolutely. All right, next one. Filipino Celebrations.
So this is really cool. This really isn't a book to read cover to cover necessarily, but it gives the ins and outs of all different types of celebrations in Filipino culture and the background behind them. So this is a nonfiction book with some really good pictures. This is not at a kindergarten level. This is kind of mid-elementary. But what I would say is you can use this book, especially if you want to study, like maybe flip through it and pick 1 or 2 cultural celebrations that you want to look at. Maybe read a little bit about them and watch some videos, and you can get an appreciation for their culture. But it's not like a book you'd read cover to cover.
Yeah, like an a la carte. You can pick and choose.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just, it's kind of a long book. It would be too much to try to read the whole thing. But I think that considering there are so few books that we could find about this area of the world, if you have some, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll add them to our resource guide. But I thought this was really good to kind of understand. There were so many cultural celebrations, I was kind of floored. So
we need to add a few to ours. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Absolutely. Last and not the least, Exploring Countries Cambodia. Again, this is the nonfiction books that we tend to recommend. Getting some nonfiction books to talk about the country, get a little bit more of a deeper facts about, what the country's about, what their agriculture, what their services look like, what the day in the life looks like, some of the big cultural attractions of those countries. And again, we have here Cambodia. If you can find one of these countries for yourself, whether it's Vietnam, Laos, really great books to do, really great books to just toss in there if you really want to focus on one book or one type of culture. These are wonderful resources.
And this is the Blast Off Reader series. These are level 5 books, so it's a bit above kindergarten, but there's a lot of good information in there, and it is told in a simpler format. So we like these, and we tend to pick these up when they're applicable to the country.
Absolutely. So those are the books we recommend for this journey through Southeast Asia. Now, movie-wise, we jumped in, thank you Disney Plus, to have a wonderful movie set in Southeast Asia. We watched Raya and the Last Dragon.
I mean, we just couldn't not.
I mean, you can't not, right?
I mean, obviously, this is a fantasy tale, but there's so much that's kind of rooted in Southeast Asian
the architecture
culture.
Of the buildings and the environment and the landscapes. I mean, you can see those all throughout that region.
Yeah, the costuming, just all of it. So, and our daughters love Raya. So
yeah, both daughters love Raya.
So we thought this was just perfect because there wasn't something else specific to watch about it, and I thought that it made for a good movie night, and we were able to talk a little bit. It was funny because at the beginning, when Hart is like farming and stuff, and he's putting in the rice. She talks about like, oh, rice is my favorite. Our daughter was like, I know all about rice because we've done all these rice videos and stuff, and so it was really cool.
Yep, absolutely. So, kind of jumping a little bit on that agricultural thing, we did spend some time talking about rice. We watched a lot of YouTube videos, and it was really interesting from our daughter because our daughters both really enjoy eating white rice, and it was really cool to kind of see that whole process, understanding, the terrace rice and the rice paddy fields, and then the terraced fields in the mountains, just visually stunning to see. And there's some really wonderful YouTube videos out there that you can go and watch, and your learner will. I mean, just seeing that on the big screen was just amazing. Even as an adult, it's just an amazing thing to see. We also watched some videos about the environmental issues around growing rice and how much waste of water and everything, and some people are now using a little bit more drier techniques, and so we were able to kind of explore a little bit of the environmentalism aspect to it. So that was kind of a cool angle because she just kept wanting more, learning more and more.
It truly was a deep dive.
Absolutely.
She got into it, and she was like, I like eating rice. Let's learn how rice is grown, right?
and
then it progressed. It progressed.
Harvesting, hulling, storing, transporting, bagging. I mean, it was just everything she wanted to know everything about, basically how it was planted all the way till she could consume it. We even did a little exercise where I made it was kind of like an art project where it was like a field, and we had to put the water over it, and she had to stick her little green starts through, and so she got to go through that whole process, and it was really, really fun.
Yeah, she did it all in construction paper, and she was so excited to come and show me and teach me what she had learned about rice production. So it was really pretty interesting. I think it's a great example of how you can have one plan. I had other videos and things queued up with more cultural information and all that stuff, and she just wanted none of it. She was all about rice. She wanted to know about rice. So I think it's interesting. Sometimes you just got to go with where your learner is leading.
We're not driving the car this week.
No, we only had 1 week to spend on Southeast Asia. It looks gorgeous, and I would love to visit someday. But that's what we did for Southeast Asia.
Food-wise?
But the food...
We opted out and went to our local Thai restaurant.
Here in the Pacific Northwest, we have some amazing Thai restaurants. And we have a really great one right in our little town. We love to go there. It's actually Thai and Laotian cuisine. So we love to go there and try new things on the menu. Our kids love it. And so, we phoned this one out this week on the food. We were pretty busy, and we were like, you know what? Why should we reinvent the wheel? We have the greatest restaurant right here. So.
Well, that was our tour through Southeast Asia. We thank you guys for continuing with us. Head down in the show notes for all the links to all the books and all the information that we talked about, and we hope to see you next week.